Hello students, welcome into the another session of CS22 operating system concepts using Linux and Unix. As all of you knows that we are discussing about unit number 4, that is getting started with Linux after the completion of unit number 3, that is memory management. As prescribed into the previous lecture that right now we are discussing about the theoretical part of the entire subject, where chapter number 1, chapter number 2 and chapter number 3 are totally theories, even chapter number 4 too. So as you can see onto the screen, in chapter number 4 we have to discuss about few topics like Unix architecture, Unix features, types of shell, that is C, bourne, con, Unix file system, different types of file like ordinary, directory and device file, and then lastly we have to discuss about Unix file and directory permission. So even this is a theoretical concept that we have to discuss. So very important topic from the entire chapter is Unix architecture and Unix features. This could be asked into the university examination. So for the same, we have already started with the introductory part of Unix. Students, up till now in our routine we are only acquainted with the Windows system, but this is not just the option which is available into the market. The another option of Windows is Unix, or you can say the Linux. The history of Unix says that in a year 1969 at AT&T Bell Lab, the group of employees like Ken Thompson, Dennis Ritchie, Douglas and Joe Osnan works together for developing the very first site of operating system, which is called as Linux. The basic fundamental for which the operating system called Linux is known called as shell. That shell is actually the group of command which is identified by the hardware, and they gives an appropriate response to that particular group of command. Now to know the architecture of Unix, our diagram is represented onto the screen. In that diagram, it consists of various layers. The outermost layer is called as user layer. Then there is a layer of application programs which might contains mail, FTP, DBMS, etc. etc. Then the innermost layer is a group of various shell commands. Just read the name. In chapter number 5 we'll discuss each and every commands in detail. I'm just taking the name over here, that is VI, ED, cut, ENV, which and so on. All these are commands. Few of the commands mentioned I have mentioned over here. There are various more commands are there also, but all that commands are identified by the particular component which is called as shell. So after this layer there is another layer which is called as kernel. Actually this is the media of communication between the shell and the hardware, and the innermost layer is hardware itself. So whatever the hardware gives as a response should be sent to the particular layer of application program and then the user, which has been maintained by the particular component that is called as kernel, and vice versa. Whenever any user has requested the information from the hardware, that could be handled by the internal layer that is called as hardware. So this communication is maintained by the component which is called as kernel. Now this kernel is actually a one type of interpreter in between the all outer layer and the inner layer. As mentioned into the diagram, it contains the various types of layer like the user layer, application program layer, where application program layer is internally divided into the various components like mail, FTP, that is file transfer protocol, database management system, various shell commands, and then it communicates with the hardware. So this is the diagram which is called as Unix architecture. As mentioned in this particular diagram, it contains various components that we have to discuss in detail. So all that components are described over here one by one. Say for example, first we are considering the component which is called as kernel. So the lines are written over here. The kernel is the heart of operating system. It interacts with the hardware and most of the tasks like it performs, that is memory management, task scheduling, file management, etc. etc. So yes, we can say that kernel is the major component into the Unix architecture which is capable to communicate with all the layers. Now the next comes is a shell. The shell is the utility that process your request. When you type in a command in the terminal, the shell interprets the command and call the program that you want. Shell use a standard syntax for all the commands like she shell, bourne shell, corn shell, and the most famous shell which are available with the most of Unix variants. So shell is actually a one type of block which rectifies the appropriate command from the bunch of shell commands, and then it process according to the same. So to rectify the particular command, it used the technique called she shell, bourne shell, and corn shell. The third one is various commands and utilities. Unix is made up of various commands. All these commands, as per the prescribed syllabus of Saurashtra University, we are going to take in next unit, that is unit number 5. But here there is a one small idea for the same. There are various commands which we can use for our day-to-day activity over the Linux operating system. Before taking all this command, I would just like to show you the basic Windows command. It is similar like this. Say for example, suppose I am going into the command window, that means into the run. Suppose I am typing cmd, it opens a window like this. Over here, suppose I am performing a one command called cd dot dot. It exit the user from the current working directory. As you can see onto the screen, the current working directory is C drive user and my name. And then I have typed cd dot dot. What it does, it get exit from the directory name Gaurav. Say for example, suppose again I am writing cd dot dot. Again it exits from the current directory which is called as user, and now it is prompted only the C drive. What happens, suppose again I am writing cd dot dot over here. Nothing will happen because C drive is the physical location of my hard disk, right? It cannot be exit from that particular label. Now suppose instead of this C drive I want to go into the D drive, then simply by writing D and colon, this command transfers the user from C drive to D drive. And suppose then I am writing the command called dir. It shows all the directories which is available into the D drive. It is something like this. Say for example, I am going into my computer, then I am selecting D drive. It opens all the present working directory which is over there over the D drive, right? But this is using the GUI, that is the speciality of Windows. But before the Windows, it could be accessed like this particular commands. Say for example, I am going in E drive and just typing dir. It shows so many commands like this. It shows so many directories and file like this. So suppose I browse my E drive, then it shows the same directories over here. But before the Windows, this could be possible using this type of command. But all these are the Windows based command. We have to learn Linux based command. So that would be covered in this particular topic. So 3 to 4 commands I have written over here. Total there are 215 standard commands are there. If we wish to learn all the commands in detail, we have to go through 250 commands. But as far as the syllabus is concerned, few of the most important commands are given. So these commands are cp command for copy, mv command for moving the files or directory, cat and grep command is for sorting the data. We'll perform all these commands over the Linux. So to perform all these commands, so one thing is very clear, we required Linux. Right now, whatever you can observe onto the screen is due to the Windows. So even we learn that how can we install Linux in our system also. Anyways, let's go ahead. The next topic of discussion is file and directories. Now all the data of Unix is organized into the file and directory structure just like Windows. Say for example, in Windows, suppose I want to create any folder in my E drive, then what I am doing is just go into the E drive, right click, go into the new, create a folder called temp, just double click that particular folder, open the file, go into the new, select the text document, give the particular name, and then in that particular file give appropriate data. This is the standard method that we are following. Just go into the file, save this. Again, suppose you open the file, you will get your saved data back. This is very simple into the Windows, but in Linux, it's not simple. We have to go for all these types of commands, but even it maintains their files and directories. So the lines are written over here. All the data of Unix is organized into the file. All files are then organized into the directories. These directories are further organized into the tree-like structure called file system. So there is a one hierarchical representation of the entire document which is created by the user. That user first have to create the directory, then inside the directory they have to create the file, and then after creating the file, user can save their data in that particular file, and this entire process is called as file system. So that was all about the file and directories which is handled by the Unix system. Now we can further describe Unix file system like this. The Unix file system is a methodology for logically organizing and storing the large quantity of data such as the various types of data for maintaining the large amount of, or you can say the bunch of data. File can be informally defined. A file can be informally defined as a collection of data which can be logically viewed as a stream of bytes. A file is the smallest unit of storage into the Unix system. So all this thing is maintained by the system which is called as file system. In short, without getting more confused, a file system is a one type of process which is handled by the Unix operating system. It is a way of organizing the user's data in a proper manner by creating first the directory, then the file, and then into the file user can store their data, so in future they can access their data fastly. The purpose of doing all these things is very simple: to provide file ownership, protection to the particular data, and giving the timestamp, that is the date of created and the date of modifying the data. This is the simple architecture which is followed by the Unix operating system while they are creating any directories. In Linux, directories are followed by a one slash that you can see over here. This is the slash backslash which which demonstrates that this is the particular directory. Then there are various directories written over here. Yes, here you can give your name also. That directory contains their subdirectories. Even the directory contains the file. And this architecture continues till the total storage of secondary storage device. Now, whenever any user creates the file, they can create three different types of file, that is the ordinary file, the directory file, and the device file. So there are various three types of files are available into the Linux: directory, device, and ordinary file. This question is very important for university examination. Question may be asked like this: what is file? And explain the different types of file for 5 marks. So you have to write all these theories which you can see onto the screen as a relevant topic of the given question. So let's say that first, what is ordinary file? This is actually the first type of file which contains special necessities. Ordinary files are comprised of the stream of data which is stored on some physical devices. That means ordinary files always stores on physical devices. Obviously all the files are stored on physical devices, but especially this is the first type of file, it stores onto the physical devices. A very simple example of ordinary file includes simple text file. If you observe, I have opened the E drive, then I have created a one folder called temp, and then into the temp I have created the one file called hello, and after creating that hello file I have written the text, that is hello students, welcome into the MVM college. So simple text files are also called as ordinary file. The extension of ordinary file is always .txt. Generally, all these ordinary files are used to store the simple informations of user. This is not used to execute any task for the operating system called Linux. It just hold the user's information for the future purpose. The next is something bit important than the ordinary file. No doubt, ordinary file is also important as it holds the user's information, but this is more important than ordinary file, that is called as directory file. This file, first of all, it is related to the operating system and its internal working called Linux. So The second type of file listed over here is directory file. Directory file acts as a container for the other files of any category. Thus, we can have the directory file contained within the directory which is created by the user. This directory file have the information of all the subdirectories which is inside the main directory. That means directory file works as a parent directory which consists of various child directories and the files. Be clear with one thing, that whenever the first directory is created by the user, it always acts like a parent directory. After browsing that directory and then suppose user creates the other subdirectories, all that works as a child directory. So this directory file structure is related with this hierarchical representation. Let me show you one thing. Say for example, suppose I am going in C drive and Windows. This Windows is a parent directory. It represents the directory structure of subdirectories. I'm just taking one or two names like add-ins, app, app patch, assembly, boot, so on. Many directories are there, lots of directories are there. Even there are lots of files are there. Suppose I open any of the directory like cursor. In cursor, there are various files are there. So this is called as directory structure. The main root of the directory is C. That is the logical partition of the operating system is C. It is situated into the C. Then the parent directory is Windows, and the first child directory is cursor, and that cursor contains total 165 files. So this is known as directory structure in Linux. I show the demonstration of Windows, but the same thing is also carry forwarded into the Linux. It looks like same. I will show you how it works into the Linux also as we are going to install the Ubuntu operating system in our next lecture. And the third one and the last type of file is device file. As the name is suggested, this file is related with the various devices which is attached with the computer. Say for example, suppose you bought a new pen drive from the market, and suppose you are attaching it for the first time with the system. What it does first, it install all the necessary driver into the system, and then you are then you can access the pen drive for storing your data. So whenever we attach pen drive for the first time with the system, it installs the driver. The drivers are called as device files. So the third category which is maintained by the operating system is called as device file. Again, this is a special type of file which is used to describe the physical devices such as portable printer or printer, external storage devices like pen drive, DVD writer, CD writer, which is very rarely used now in the market. This type of file generally used to include character device file, block device file, Unix domain sockets, name pipe, and symbolic links. So let make it very simple. This device file is related with the various device which user attached with the system on which the Linux is working, and this device file makes a common communication channel between the external device and the system. Now whatever the file and directories have into the Linux should follows by the special permission. I am talking about the thing. Let me show you over here. Say for example, suppose I have created a temp directory, then welcome file, and there are two attributes are there like read only and hidden. Suppose I click on read only and apply and OK, then this particular file can only be read by the user. User cannot save the new changes in this particular file. Suppose I am editing this particular file, just observe this thing. It tries to save this particular file as a new file, right? Suppose I saved as a new file, welcome one, then the content, new updated content is in welcome one, but in welcome it contains only the older one. Now suppose let me remove this welcome one first. Right click, properties, remove read only, apply, OK, open this file, and suppose I am giving our city name, just going into the save, it saves in that particular file. So this attributes is called as file and directory permission. Basically there are three types of permissions are there in Linux and even into the Windows. Owner permission, group permission, and other permission. Owner permission means this is the special permission which is only applicable to the owner of created file. Group permission means owner can provide a global permission to the specific group and the group member can only access that particular file. And the world permission means anyone from the entire domain can access and change the file which is created by the particular owner. So this is the one hierarchy. Owner means owner can only change the file. Group means a group of people who is identified by the owner of that particular file can change the file, and other means anyone from the entire domain can change the file of owner. So this was all about the unit number 4, that is called as Unix file structure, that is getting started with Unix. All these things we have to discuss in this particular chapter. So two lectures are assigned for the same. In our previous lecture, that is the last lecture of unit number 3, we have also covered about the Unix architecture, and even in this particular lecture we have go into the detail of all these topics. So unit number 4 is to be considered as a completed topic over here. In our next lecture, first we are going to install the Unix operating system, and then we are going to start with the practicals of Unix by introducing various shell commands. So thank you very much students for listening me, and our next lecture will be very interesting. So stay connected with MVM College of Commerce Management and IT. Thank you very much for listening me, and have a nice day.